Hope everyone is having a good evening or morning today. So I wanted to make a video about how to make your music sound 100 times better in FL Studio. And I see a lot of threads that come up on Reddit where people are out of ideas, or their music just sounds really bad and they don't like it and it's not inspiring them anymore. And they've kind of lost like the motivation to produce good music. And I'm going to explain what I do in FL Studio and how I keep myself inspired with a lot of ideas that help me produce really cool beats. So there are 3 cornerstones to making great music in FL Studio, and you can't get distracted by anything. Don't get distracted by music theory or all the different synths and instruments and all the effects and all the parameters and knobs and all that stuff. In order to produce good music in FL Studio, you have to learn how to think like a producer would. So the way I've been producing now for 16 years, and the way I think about this now is there are really only 3 cornerstones to this. 1 is your sound bank. 2 is your score bank, and 3 is the way that you organize all of your sounds in your scores. So if you're new to FL Studio, maybe you've developed a small kind of sound bank and you've gotten some VSTs, and it doesn't really matter how big it is, as long as the sounds are good and they're organized in a way you can fetch the sounds out quickly. That's all that really matters. But the thing that I would say most newbies and amateurs overlook is your score bank. This is how you make your music sound incredible. Like when I need ideas, I can't just sit down with an empty mind and like a blank sheet of paper. With music, you have to have scores. The scores are the performances. It's what brings your music to life. If I hear an idea, like I was listening to Martin Garrix's track, Animals, and he has this break in the track that I'm not going to play. I don't want my video to get taken down, but so let me show you what I'm doing in this track, and it sounds really cool. And what's helping me make great beats like this is I'm just following these 3 steps, right? I'm not getting like when you get a sequencer, you have to organize a workflow around, like, you have to have a strategy, and I'm showing you this. It's the most important thing you can learn. So you organize your sounds, and then you organize your scores. And a lot of the magic that I do is really with the scoring. So I have a kick drum in this track. This kick is only the bass is coming through. Well, I should say the whole kick is coming through. Let me play it. And then I have a high pass bass, which is a clone version of that kick, and I'm cutting out the low end. And that's all. And then I have a solo kick. I have my side chain. I have a ride. Martin Garrix has a ride. He has a kick and a ride and a mid bass that come in that track. And I'm copying the overall organization or the mixing of the track. What I'm copying most is the way the track is mixed, but I'm adding my own elements, and I'm using scoring to do this really quickly. Like people say, there's this misconception that music is a ton of work. And it's not true. Like, it's true that it takes work to build a sound bank and a score bank. But the actual process of producing music, you can remove so much fatigue and just you'll drain yourself trying to do every instrument from scratch. You want to have scores saved for each instrument, and then you quickly throw them together and lay out more complex ideas, which is what I'm doing. But so we have a ride, and I have simple scoring here, and the ride is just going up and down, and it sounds like this. I have another version of that ride over here, and I'm mixing this in on the last beat. And you can see that it's playing right here. So we have 8 bars that's playing on the last bar. And then we have a mid bass over here. This mid bass I'm using Omnisphere, but you could use any synth in FL Studio to do this. It's just a rolling bass. And again, I wanted a rolling bass, so I went into my score bank over here, so I don't have to sit here for like a half hour just thinking, how do I want these notes to go? I have every roll you can possibly think of already saved, and I'll just go into my folders, I'll drag out a roll, and I'll try to get a rhythm that's catchy and that I like. And so I add that mid bass. He's using a filter on that mid bass where he's cutting, it's high pass, and then he's cutting the low end in, and at the same time he's doing that, that's happening down here. At the same time he's doing that, he's automating up the distortion. And you can do that using Fruity Distortion. Just cut in the mix level on the distortion unit. And it pushes the bass into this weird, intense spot before the main beat kicks in. And then it plays for 8 bars. And then, like Martin Garrix is doing, I had this break effect. And it sounds kind of similar to his, but it's a sub kind of sound with a clap and a crash, all playing at the same time. And this is the sub. This is the sub and the clap. This is the sub, the clap, and the crash. And that's just playing at the break. And then we have a main lead that's going to come into this track. And I'm using Sylenth to do this, and I'm layering Sylenth. If you want to get really big, fat leads, try to layer more than one synth. And then open up your sliders in FL Studio. And go to the filters on all the synths you're using. And I'll use this filter here, and I'll find filters on all the synths. And then I link all of those filters to one slider. You have to do this. If you want to get those effects that sound like a giant filter opening in your tracks, layer synths and then link all the filters and open them all at the same time. But that's what I'm doing with the lead, and the lead sounds like this, and it comes in at the break. Let me close the filter. It sounds like this. And then we had the mid bass. We have a clap. That's a really standard clap. There's no fancy scoring happening, but I do use scoring on other sections. So what else do we have here? This is where I'm using scoring. So I have a snare over here, and then if you go to the piano roll, you could see like this would take so much time to do if I had to manually write these scores for every track. But I can get a really cool dynamic sounding snare just by using scores, and it sounds like this. And now I like to build in like other sounds. So I like sounds that swell in pitch. And these are kind of longer sustained sounds, and they add atmosphere and a whole lot of swing and power Like if you play one of these swelling sounds behind the beat, it just makes everything sound so much bigger. And this is similar to what like pros do in their track. So I have a pitcher sound here, and I'm doing this with Wasp, and I'm automating the pitch on this note. So it's just one note, and it's playing for 8 bars. And then I go down here, and this takes seconds to do. It's so easy, but adds such a big build-up. Just open up any patch you want, draw the patch out, and then just start playing with the pitch on the wheel. And so I drop the pitch a bit, play it at the normal pitch, and then at the end here, it's just slowly going up and up, and then on the final bar, it drops down all the way. And it sounds like someone's tweaking the pitch on a synth, and you get this effect from it that sounds like this. And I have another swelling sound. This was a pad, but I wound up just using the first section of the pad to make a swell. This is a really good way to make swelling sounds. Just open a pad, put it on a bassy note, and then let me show you what I'm doing. I'm just playing the pad for a half a bar. And let me find it here. And you can see I have one note playing on C, and then the top note, it's playing here, but then the second note is sliding, and you get this swell kind of sound from any pad, and it sounds like this. And I'm using that in the intro. And then there's a few other sounds, but there's one other sound that's kind of important. And so on that main lead that I'm introducing, I just cut all of the notes out of it, and I use only the first notes. And it looks like this. And then I play those notes into the playlist, and I record them with reverb. And it will record, and then I click on the sample, I reverse it, and so we have the forward lead sound, and then we have a reverse version. And it just adds this huge swell into the track, and I love it. If you want to get these huge swells and these breaks, like start building these kinds of sounds with that are long sustained with a lot of movement, and then just layer them together. And I'm also using a reverse crash. And then 3 oscillator to do a noise that's playing long sustain. And you can see I'm just dropping the volume on that. And it's really simple and quick to do. And I also have this variation. So I showed you the main lead, and then we have an intro lead over here. It's just a really simple lead. And it's playing on the same notes as all. It's playing on the same notes as the main lead, but it's just a different synth I'm using. But so let me play everything now played together. Okay, so I'm not going to play the whole track because I'm going to do more videos on scoring and how I scored this track. I'm going to play the outro, and I'm going to talk more about these 3 cornerstones of making your music sound 100 times better in FL Studio. You want 1, good sounds, 2, good scores, and 3, you want to organize these really well. And then when you want to find ideas, just listen to any track that you admire, and you could quickly use scores to match rhythms and then mix all this together in your track, and you can make amazing sounding tracks. The hardest part is just setting up the sequencer in your DAW the way that you need to make good music. So I have tons of scores, and it takes me sometimes 20 to 30 minutes to write these scores. And it's true that FL Studio gives you scores with the program, but they're very noobish, and they're not organized well. Like, they're not for different instruments. I have scores for every instrument. You can for a lot of instruments, and I have really good scores, and I have them on my website. And you could get free ones. And so let me show you. If you go to fruitysamples.com, I have some free FSCs. Fruitysamples.com. All right, let me see. It's a new site, so it might not be showing up on Google. Here it is. So this is the site. And if you go over to the free score section, you can see on the bottom of the page I have 42 free scores that you can download. And these are from the paid pack. And if you like them and you want to get more, I'm trying to help newbies build out their own score bank. Or just come back and watch more videos, because I'm going to be teaching people how I do this and why I love scoring and why you have to learn how to score. Like, you can learn everything there is to know about sound engineering, but if you don't have like some basic sounds to work with in an organized score bank, it's going to be really hard to make good music. So if you like the video, and please subscribe, support the channel. I like to do a lot more videos like this. I love doing these tutorials, and they're a lot of fun. So please support the channel, and thanks for watching. All right, take care. Bye-bye.